Harry flew out of the UK this week looking completely relaxed. There were no crowds chasing him through the airport, no security scare, and no major drama during the trip. That immediately caught people's attention because for years, Harry has argued that he can't safely bring his family to Britain. Yet, this journey appeared to go smoothly when he was traveling alone. That contrast became one of the biggest talking points of the week.
Today, Meghan Markle breaks her agreement with King Charles and Buckingham Palace to leak to her friends at People magazine less than a week after that promised meeting with Charles and Queen Camilla. Meanwhile, Prince Harry has arrived back in the United States completely fine, proving the point that I have made, by the way, for months and years, that they can travel in and out of the UK with their children privately with absolutely no issues whatsoever.
Harry then arrived at the Time 100 event looking confident, smiling for photographers and happily posing for pictures. It stood out because he has often spoken about how camera flashes remind him of painful experiences connected to his past. Commentator Toure Bukhari pointed out what he saw as a contradiction. He argued that someone who has spent millions on privacy-related legal battles while also saying flash photography is upsetting looked completely at ease working the cameras. Bukhari even called Harry a hypocritical old ham. The footage fueled that debate. Harry thanked photographers, joked with them, and even told one he was the most polite man he had ever met. He appeared relaxed and cheerful around the very cameras he has criticized before. Meghan wasn't at the event, and many royal watchers noticed. Some questioned why she stayed away during a week that included one of Harry's biggest legal setbacks. Her absence sparked speculation, although only Harry and Meghan know the real reason. Things became even more interesting when People magazine published an exclusive story shortly after reports claimed both sides had agreed not to shape the media narrative around the visit.
Harry has in the past directly emailed People magazine. We know that People magazine effectively operates as like the house journal for the Sussexes, and we know that Meghan Markle wanted it to be known to the world that the choreography of this meeting was nothing to do with her.
The headline stated that Meghan always lets Harry lead when it comes to the royal family, leading many commentators to believe the article was trying to make it clear that Harry was responsible for decisions surrounding the trip. The article also suggested there had been an about-face because security concerns stopped a full family visit. However, several commentators argued that the security arrangements had not actually changed. If that's true, then the issue wasn't new security, but a different way of presenting the same situation. That links back to the Time 100 appearance. Harry has long said that media attention and camera flashes are connected to genuine trauma following his mother's death.
She would have felt humiliated, oh poor Meghan, humiliated watching the public back and forth unfold. Another source tells People Meghan is very supportive of Harry, adding there's a lot of sadness over how the week unfolded and that she wasn't able to be by his side.
That is a serious subject and deserves to be treated with respect. At the same time, the footage from this event showed Harry doing far more than simply accepting cameras. He appeared comfortable posing, interacting with photographers, and thanking them personally. That doesn't prove his past experiences aren't real, but many observers felt it showed that his relationship with the media may be more selective than it first appears. Another royal commentator offered a different perspective on the week's events. The argument was that Harry likely knew when the court ruling was coming and may have had some idea of the likely outcome before it became public.
Well, I think that'll probably be a big issue for him because they do love a controversy because it
Yes.
boosts their brand, it boosts their numbers. But the reality is, you summed it up brilliantly in that intro, but you know, this has been a fiasco, it's been a circus.
If that was the case, staying at Buckingham Palace while publicly criticizing the court system, the media, and parts of the government could have placed the palace in a difficult position. The monarchy is expected to remain politically neutral and avoid becoming involved in disputes involving judges, the government, or the press. From that viewpoint, withdrawing the accommodation offer may not have been a personal rejection. Some commentators suggested it was simply a way to avoid creating unnecessary controversy at a sensitive moment. Royal commentator Tom Sykes also challenged the version of events presented elsewhere. According to Sykes, Harry's own team made the story public by informing journalists that the whole family planned to travel to Britain, raising expectations of a possible reconciliation.
I thought that this whole nonsense about the security was something they've just dreamed up from their own team. If you speak to people in the intelligence services, there is no threat against Harry, and that is why Ravak have not stepped up the security. If there was, the security level would be higher, and he would get an appropriate security as long as he gave them the notice that was required to actually do that review.
Sykes argued that Harry already knew the security arrangements before those plans were announced. According to that account, the trip was later cancelled because of the same security conditions that had existed all along. Meanwhile, the palace reportedly stayed silent, allowing events to unfold without public comment. Supporters of this view believe the palace simply waited while Harry's team decided whether to accept an offer that had already been available for some time. That's why many commentators questioned the phrase "about face." Normally, those words suggest something suddenly changed. But if the security arrangements stayed the same, then describing the situation that way may have created the impression that new developments had occurred when they had not. Another detail also attracted attention. Reports claimed Queen Camilla was present during Harry's meeting with King Charles at Highgrove.
It's not about his safety in the UK. I know this because I know people, Jobbo, who have this Ravik protection. And once you get it, you have to be protected wherever in the world you are. So what it means is that the UK taxpayer would be effectively funding Harry's security while in California, but also, Jobbo, if he decided to go to Ukraine again, if he goes to Nigeria, if he goes to Colombia. So all of a sudden what would happen is Harry would be able to wipe that $3 million security bill altogether.
Some royal commentators believed that was significant because Harry has publicly criticized Camilla in the past. According to that interpretation, her presence may have helped keep the conversation focused on safe family topics, especially the grandchildren, rather than allowing old disagreements to dominate the meeting. Looking at the bigger picture, reports suggest Harry and King Charles have had only a small number of private meetings over the past several years. That has led many observers to conclude that reconciliation has been slow. Camilla's reported role also changed how some people viewed the meeting. If the goal had simply been private father and son time, Charles could have met Harry alone. Instead, some commentators saw the meeting as carefully managed to avoid sensitive issues.
Okay, I remember writing it at the time. Before you broke that story of the split, there was discussions going on, and then the reality is, the one thing that the king, who was then Prince of Wales, told his son was, "Have you thought about it? Have you given it all the thought? Because security, is a big issue. You will not get it definitely if you're out of the royal family." You then broke the story in The Sun. And then Harry just assumed he was going to get it.
That doesn't necessarily mean anything negative happened. It could simply reflect caution after years of public disagreements. Even so, many royal watchers believe the carefully planned meeting looked very different behind closed doors than the warm family reunion described in some headlines. Taken together, the events of the week created plenty of debate. Harry appeared comfortable with photographers despite his long-running criticism of media attention. Questions surrounded the cancelled family visit and the security explanation, while competing accounts offered very different versions of what happened behind palace walls. Whether those differences reflect changing circumstances or simply different ways of telling the same story remains a matter of public debate. And that's exactly why this week attracted so much attention. Here's the theory that has a lot of people talking, even though it's an uncomfortable one. Some commentators believe Harry's renewed push for reconciliation may not be only about repairing family relationships. They argue that money could also be part of the picture. King Charles is receiving treatment for cancer, and no one knows what the future holds. According to multiple royal commentators, once Prince William becomes king, any personal financial support from Charles would likely come to an end. If that's true, inheritance could become the only major financial connection left. Of course, Harry wanting his children to know their grandfather could be completely genuine. Most parents would want that. But some observers believe the timing raises questions. After years of distance, the sudden urgency to reconnect has led critics to wonder whether financial realities are also playing a role. Another issue often discussed is the cost of Harry's ongoing legal battles and private security. Reports have claimed that legal costs connected to court cases could be extremely high, while private security has also been estimated to cost millions of pounds every year. If those reports are accurate, it's easy to understand why security remains such a major focus. That's where the debate becomes even more interesting. Under the UK's RAVEC system, certain people who qualify for government-funded protection receive security wherever they travel, not just inside Britain. Former prime ministers are often used as an example of how that system works. Some commentators argue that if Harry were ever granted that level of protection again, the cost of his private security could shift away from him. Supporters say the issue is about safety, while critics argue there is also a significant financial incentive. Both ideas could exist at the same time. There's also history behind this story. Reports have claimed that before Harry stepped back as a working royal, King Charles warned him that official security might not continue after leaving royal duties. According to those reports, Harry believed his military service would help secure continued protection, but that didn't happen. It's also been widely reported that Charles personally covered Harry's security costs for about a year after the royal exit, giving the family time to adjust. Eventually, those reports say Charles ended that support, reportedly telling Harry, "I am not a bank." Whether people agree or disagree with that decision, many believe it marked the point where temporary help came to an end. Another part of the week also caught attention. On the very same day, both People magazine and the New York Times published stories focusing on Harry's relationship with Prince William. Both articles suggested that little progress had been made between the brothers while presenting Harry's relationship with Charles in a more hopeful light. Some royal watchers found that timing difficult to ignore. Harry's representatives reportedly declined to comment, while Kensington Palace reportedly did not respond at all. Commentators pointed out that there is a difference between declining to comment and giving no response, leading some to believe that one side may have been more involved in shaping the overall narrative. The fact that the New York Times covered the story also stood out to some observers because it doesn't regularly focus on royal news. Seeing both stories appear on the same day fueled even more speculation about whether it was simply a coincidence or carefully coordinated messaging. So where does that leave everything? Harry traveled through Britain without any reported security incidents, adding another chapter to the ongoing debate over his safety concerns. The People magazine story appeared despite reports of an understanding that neither side would publicly shape the narrative. Camilla's reported presence during Harry's meeting with King Charles led some commentators to believe the conversation was carefully managed. Questions about finances and security continue to surround the reconciliation story, while the coverage involving Prince William has sparked fresh debate over media strategy. At the same time, it's important to remember that behind all the headlines is a real family dealing with complicated relationships, public pressure, and serious health concerns. Different commentators see these events in very different ways, and many of the claims remain matters of interpretation rather than established fact. Now it's your turn. Do you think the financial theory has any weight, or do you believe this is simply a father and son trying to repair a broken relationship? And what about those stories published on the same day? Coincidence or something more? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video with others who follow the royal family. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.